As always, don't just tell us you're afraid to subscribe to the pod. No, you got to go further. You got to record the facts, analyze, get to the how and the why. Then present your conclusion.
Just start. Go from the beginning. You can do
I
it.
can. As always, don't just tell us you're.
All right, you can't do it.
Welcome to our Film Fathers podcast, the definitive podcast about fatherhood, film, and fatherhood in film. This is Jelani, and with me as always are a guy who's a little too close to being a ghost himself, and a guy whose humor setting is about to go down to 55%. Martin and Brady.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
When you become a parent, one thing becomes really clear, and that's that you want to make sure your children feel safe. And that rules out telling a 10-year-old that the world's ending.
This week, we're launching into a cinematic masterpiece that continues to captivate audiences and spark debates. Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Nearly a decade after its release, this sci-fi epic uses gravity to still raise big questions about love, time, and humanity's place in the cosmos, and raised an all-time question that still is prescient today. Is this Nolan's magnum opus?
I think it cemented its place as my favorite Christopher Nolan movie after this. I've seen it a bunch, but yeah, I absolutely loved it again. So good.
Well, I would argue, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think the fact that Nolan's resume is what it is that it's so hard to answer that question.
Yeah, it really is. If I watched Inception tonight, I'd probably be like, never mind.
Yeah, I'm like trying to remember like how gushing I was about Oppenheimer, right? And and we're not even talking about The Dark Knight. Like he's just got so many legendary movies, but there's no denying that this is one of the best movies that he's done, and I would argue maybe one of the best movies of all time in terms of like overall enjoyment. How much you're think I think I appreciate the fact that like it, you're using your brain a little bit while you're watching it. You're not just vegged out and zoned out like I get at times. It's great. I mean, no one we weren't going to come into this asking who likes it. This movie's unbelievable.
Jelani's first time.
It's actually my second, but it is so good. And it was, when we talked about doing it, I was like, yeah, I really do need to go back. And there's a lot of things in it that hit a lot differently. Like once you watch it again, this is definitely a movie that you can't.
Did you cry? Because I cried. But
yeah, you can't just watch one time and be like, all right, that's good. I never need to watch that again. It's like you need to watch it a couple times. As I was like doing research, because when you like watch a movie like this, like you want to know like everything that went into it. Did you know that this was almost a Spielberg film?
I saw that. But also that it was very different when it was. No, yeah. I mean, he had it. It was supposed to be. It was essentially geared. Jonathan Nolan.
Nolan wrote it with Spielberg in mind, and then when Spielberg couldn't do it, he gave it to his brother.
But also, what I read was it was a very different movie at the time. Not that matters. Like, not to say it wouldn't have been good, but like even the whole idea. Like, I think one of the most basic things. Murph was a boy. Like, I mean, like legitimately, it was a different. Would have been a different experience regardless. But yeah, that kind of blew my mind as well.
Yeah. But so I watched it again, and it's long, so settle in, but it's worth it.
It is, but I watched it in one whole sitting. I couldn't turn it off. I stayed up really late.
For sure.
Oh, I was so tired. I just fought. I was like, I have to get this done, but I had nothing to do with the movie, but I'm like, I was exhausted, and I had to. I
don't think there's a wasted minute. Like I don't.
I agree with that. That's a great statement, but I agree with it.
Yeah.
And so obviously, I think obviously, but the first time if you could harken back to the first time you watched it,
with Matt Clara in the theater.
there's a surprise, right? Like there's something that, the movie makes you kind of realize and then start to come back and reevaluate. So watching it on a repeat watch, that going in, but still it doesn't change any of the greatness. There's no I already know that part, right? Like the movie doesn't hinge on the fact that it needs a surprise at the end to be awesome. It is just great, and honestly, that it just made me think and enjoy it more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of surprises and a couple of mind bending things in it. That's why, yeah, like Johnny, it's the second time you watched it. I think I've seen it maybe 4 or 5 times.
It's probably around that.
And yeah, just I think this was the first time where I finally think I fully grasped a lot of it. And in the 10 years since I first saw it, I've watched a lot of science videos and Kip Thorne things, and there's this PBS show on YouTube called Space Time that just dives into general relativity and all the stuff that they talk about in the black holes, and when they first have an image of a black hole, and they really they talked to physicists, they talked to Kip Thorne about how that what it might look like, and then they proved it years later, because in 2019 is when they first we have our first image of a black hole. So all that kind of stuff it's crazy how much attention to detail and how they got the physics all right in all this.
I saw something where Thorne had, in pre-production, he had 2 guidelines they had to follow. Nothing would violate established physical laws, and that all while any speculations of the movie would spring from science and not from just a screenwriter getting crazy and throwing shit out there. And as long as they didn't, and Nolan accepted it, as long as they could still make the movie, and pretty much agreed to all of it. And Thorne's he said the largest degree of license that they took
was inside the black hole, probably.
Was that? Sorry?
I was going to say it was inside the black hole
no.
No? Okay.
It was the clouds of the ice planet. Where they clip that cloud and it's ice.
Clouds.
That he said probably would go beyond the strength which ice would be able to support, but that was essentially. But to me, reading that, I was like, of all the fucking crazy, shit that's going on, that's the only thing that was tested reality is awesome.
Well, so after I watched this, I went and looked up Neil deGrasse Tyson's take on it, because he used to work with Kip Thorne.
He's got opinions.
He does have a couple.
He always tweets out his opinions on every movie and the scientific accuracy.
And so he has a ranking, and you can go and watch it if you want. But he said that
spoiler alert.
The only thing that he didn't like about it was the fact that the biologists on Earth couldn't figure out how to stop the blight. He said, you'd spend a lot less money if you just had every biologist working on trying to solve the blight versus developing space travel that can go through wormholes and finding a distant planet where you could repopulate with a new civilization. It would be a lot cheaper and probably work just as well.
Yeah, but I disagree with that, because I saw you sent it and I watched it.
It feels a little, yeah.
I disagree with Neil, sorry, but because it's not, they weren't paying for it. The wormhole was put there, and everything that happened was done by future us, or whatever, them that they say is future us. So yeah, they had to get the spacecraft up there, but that is not, I don't know. I mean, we have space exploration now. It's not that much money. It's more. It's more
that
just
was the whole thing. Remember that he told him that Michael Caine said that's why we had to build it in secret.
Right. Yeah.
That people wouldn't pay for it if they knew what it was going to. And they sent out all of those missions. They sent out
if
Matt
they knew what
Damon's
they were
mission,
spending money on.
But what
right,
I'm
the
saying
12
is
other missions.
Yeah, but they only did it because they found the wormhole. Like, they wouldn't be doing all that if it wasn't for the wormhole that Future Us put there. And they probably were trying to fight the blight. They just didn't know how because they didn't have the science. They didn't have the science for the wormhole either. So you know what I'm saying? Like, it's only because of Future Us.
Yeah. But to his point, he's saying it's easier to science the shit out of blight than it is to figure out wormholes.
But and I guess
easy for him to say.
Said, it's the premise of the movie. Like, without that, we wouldn't have to leave, and we wouldn't have a movie.
Hear me out. What if you didn't shit on every science movie?
But I couldn't believe that he gave it like an A rating and not his whatever the S is superior.
S tier?
Like, that is an S tier. That is God tier. Interstellar is definitely like I don't know.
Yeah,
why
and that's what he said. He's like, that's a minor detail because they got the physics right. They got everything else right about it.
But it's clearly not minor if it ruined, if it's just not considered top class.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Well, he said there's a
sure.
couple others that are better.
That's what I'm saying.
But
are they?
He put the Martian,
I don't agree
there,
with maybe Contact being up there, but the Martian is right up there with it.
That goes into something. So I didn't see your video. I was thinking about this while I was watching the movie about essentially the best, most entertaining like space movies that I've seen, and maybe a little bit of a recency bias because we did The Martian not that long ago, but. Mm-hmm. The Martian and this, I feel like, are there. Like I don't know that I
for sure
can put anything above them. And kudos to Matt Damon, the anchor behind both of them.
Hey, let's not shit on Jessica Chastain. She was
Trust me. I'm gonna not say that comment. But
exactly where you were going with that.
That I love
we love
Chastain.
Ourselves some Jessica Chastain. Yeah, she's so good in this too.
She's amazing. And is exactly who you want in that role. Like, and honestly, the cast across the board, like, really great.
McConaughey nails it.
Casey Affleck's like an afterthought. He's just a guy in the movie, right? Like, we got young Chalamet. Out of nowhere.
We got young Jessica Chastain is Mackenzie Foy, who we saw in The Conjuring recently in our horror movies.
There you go. It's great, man. I mean,
she was great too for a young actor. I mean, you guys really mentioned maybe crying a little bit. Like, there was definitely some dad moments this time around for me.
Oh, God.
Like, I think when I first saw it, I was like, why? What the hell? Why doesn't she? Why would she be so stubborn? And now having an 11-year-old daughter, I'm like, yeah, that hit home a lot of times for me, and it definitely got to me. Yeah, I was sitting there late at night crying.
Dude, when he's like leaving and trying to like make it right so he doesn't leave on like a bad note. I mean, I don't even have any personal history like that I could relate to that where I've like left. It's like I haven't. I was like not good. I was not. I was very emotional. even the concept of that was debilitating for me. That like my daughter could feel that way. And I'm like, I think I just have to never not save the world. I think I think I'm just staying home. She's a mess, and he kept saying it like, don't make it be this way. Like he knew he had to leave, but man, that was rough.
I mean, that one, and then also when he's watching the videos, right, that are getting sent to him, and he sees them growing up, and they're going through everything, and like, he sees his grandson, and then, oh my gosh, I was just like, those videos hit a lot differently this time. I'm like, oh, you've missed everything that your kids have gone through. And you missed them growing up. And I think, that's all because you were down on a planet for an hour. And you lost 7 years.
It's so crazy.
23, right? Didn't he say 23 years?
Yeah.
When they were down there?
I know at one point they're like, that was like a decade. They're like, that cost us a decade. And it's like, it's one thing to say it, right? And then, but.
Right, yeah, that's what. And then Nolan gets criticized for not having a lot of like personal or like heart in his movies, and I'm like, I don't get it at all with this movie. Like it's almost all heart. And then the other thing that love speech gets a little criticized, I think, for in this movie. Like it's just a little cheesy. But watching it this time, I remember thinking that the first time that maybe it didn't really have the place, but no, I think it fits. I think it all worked. And maybe maybe I'm just forgiving some things that because I love the movie so much, but I don't think I am. I think I just see it in a different light now that I fully understand the movie. You know,
I didn't know that that part was like shit on, but I did not feel like it was out of place in any way.
Yeah.
I think I think right, people are going to pick.
Sure.
Some people like to pick nits. And some people like to find technicalities, but I think you take the overarching movie for what it is. Like I felt like it fit right along fine.
But going back to what you guys were saying about the time when they were next to Gargantua or on that planet, do you hear the ticking of the clock? They say that I didn't look it up exactly, but like
did.
Yeah, how much was it? Was it like months or years?
Well, so
every tick was like a week or something like that. Because an hour was 7 years.
Well, so one of the things that I read was that the score, from Jelani's boy, Hans
Booby,
was that. So he slowed it down around then, and its beat is like every second. And like each one of those is supposed to represent a year, so like the music, the score correlated to time, like perfectly. And I was reading something else where they were like Zimmer's score. He really tried to essentially create something that was new in the world, like it had never been done before, essentially, and kind of did that with correlating it to the time of what's happening in the movie, which is in and of itself its own thing that is relative to what's going on. And I can tell you right now, not only did I not pick up on that, I would never have picked up on that. There's no chance. So it doesn't hurt to like read and learn a little bit about things to kind of put that all in perspective. I think next time I watch it, I might be able to kind of correlate some of that vibe. But yeah, the amount of time that was spent on, or that was surpassing while they were in these different areas, was actually, I found it fascinating that it was essentially being documented in real time in front of you, audibly, and yet I would imagine the majority of people would never have noticed or put that together. Kudos to the Reddit crew decided to to tie that all in and be like, dude, just listen. It's right there. Count them off. There's all the years.
Have you guys seen this meme that's going around? It's called it's just like, this little maneuver is going to cost us 51 years. Like, no. I've been seeing a lot lately on like, in reference to like sports.
I will now.
Or other things. And I was like, why did that just pop up all of a sudden? I guess maybe we had talked about Interstellar enough that now my phone's listening and pulling these memes out of the air.
Yeah. No, but I have seen that one. The one I see a lot more of is when he's banging on when he's telling her, "Don't let me leave, Murph, don't let me leave," and he's saying, and he's just yelling. It's people put something like, we'll put a little script on the person walking away. It's like me about to draft Christian McCaffrey this year. It's like, no, stop. Guess who drafted him this year?
Was he your keeper?
Yeah, he was my keeper. Yeah, but yeah, stuff like that. So like that's been in the, I don't know, in the meme verse as well. So this movie's definitely it's just in the zeitgeist now. It's definitely one of those things where it's meme worthy.
Did you, Brady? Did you recognize Romilly?
Dude, it blew my mind. It really did blow my mind. What's up, Martin?
Who is he?
So he's in The Diplomat.
Okay.
And when I saw him in The Diplomat, I definitely was like, "Oh, I like this guy. I don't think I really know him." Did not bother to look him up. watching this and seeing him, which so long ago, and I was legitimately floored because I'm just like, holy shit! I can't believe that this is the guy.
Did he get?
They
Like,
did a
swole or
good job
something?
of aging him in the
Oh,
movie
yeah.
because he looks 20 years older in Interstellar than he
From
does
the
in
beginning,
Diplomat.
by the way, not even just the older like grade
Yeah.
version. From the first step,
Yeah.
I think he just
crazy.
got like fitter because I see pictures where he's like super thin. He didn't look.
He's Benjamin Buttoning the shit out of life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really did shock me. That's the best way to describe it. It shocked me that was him because I was just like, definitely didn't know who he was at the time when I first saw the movie, and then to just be like out of my orbit and obviously entirely, and then and to come back in here with the Diplomat on Netflix. Yeah, totally.
That was a great pull. Great seeing him in something. The other element that I really enjoyed was Tars and the other robot.
Kip? No,
Kip was the one that was busted
Kip
up.
was
but-
one of them.
Kip was Damon's. Yeah.
It was a case.
Case, yes.
Or-
Tars and Case.
Yeah.
And then reading that
No, Tars is the name of. Isn't Tars the name of what they are?
I think
I don't know.
the first one
No,
was
but
Tars.
Tars was them.
The second
Robot,
one was Case.
for sure.
Oh, I was thinking Tars was what they were.
Yeah. But
Something-
they
I thought I looked it up, or something robotic system.
yeah. But the first one was actually a puppet that Bill Irwin like controlled. And then when
It's like R2D2
yeah.
with what's his name in there.
And there were parts when like he didn't, right? Obviously when they were like moving fast and grabbing, Hathaway and all that stuff. But I just
Yeah, that was
I thought
crazy.
Those things were cool.
It's like, oh shit, they got capabilities.
yeah.
They were so cool. They were awesome. And very funny. I like the humor setting.
And just and then
I mean, like,
the
I
side
laughed
eye
out
and stuff
loud
like
at some
that,
of those.
the lights and
Yeah.
being I'm not going to give you all the information. I have like a decency setting or something like that. He said when he wouldn't tell her, or he wouldn't give up all the information about Anne Hathaway and her being in love with Wolf Edmonds.
Yeah, discretion setting
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
Discretion setting. That was it.
Yeah, It was cool the way that they. I mean, I didn't really know what it was when you first see it. It's like cool robot. It's a big flat, massively thick, piece of metal. But they do a great job.
Yeah.
Great job with it. It's cool.
The first time I saw it, I did not expect the villain turn from Damon. I didn't even know he was in it.
How could you
they didn't-
expect it?
Yeah.
And it comes out of nowhere. And I think I saw where they specifically, they harkened back to the Kevin Spacey days of Seven, and no publicity, no real mention of it, and you see him, and it's just like whoa, and then it's just like I don't know if it's just because of like his general demeanor, like you just aren't conditioned to expect him to be a villain.
Yeah.
And to have him be, flip like that, it's perfect, absolutely perfect.
And they start giving you a couple clues. You hear the music tension build up, and it is that's what you were saying. Like there's the twists or the reveals at the end, but I feel like that's another one just in the middle of it
Sure.
where it becomes like almost like a different type of sci-fi movie right in the middle of it, where you just have this isolation, fever that takes over, like done very in a very comedic fashion with Armageddon by Steve Buscemi. Like he just starts going nuts.
What do they call that? Do you remember?
Space
Did they
Madness.
say
We're not gonna.
Space Madness?
I think that's what it was.
He's like, we're not going to tell anyone about this when we get back, are we? But like, it's all done so well, and they explain it, I think, in a great way too. He's like, yes, I am a coward, but you don't. I hope you never know what it's like to.
Yeah, I've been
alone.
tested like nobody else.
Yeah. But you've never been tested, yeah. And so
He's
just
not-
like great
In
dialogue.
like to a
right?
degree, it's like he's right.
Right.
It's like he's, but you hate to. Obviously, we're all conditioned at that point. Like we're sitting there watching, essentially, with McConaughey as our protagonist, and so yeah, it feels like we're all under attack to a degree. No big deal. He's just in a massive scuffle, drops an insane amount, and randomly the piece he needs is within reach.
Yeah, that
he just has to grab
he
it.
threw over. Just happened to be laying there in the snow.
Nolan, if I have a critique, that could be one.
Little Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, you just let it be so easy to get, but yeah, it's
and how many hatches does Matt Damon blow in every movie he's in too? That's another like The Martian. He blew himself up in one, he blew himself up in the other.
It's something to be said. Those for him to be in both of these is really awesome because they are both phenomenal in so many ways.
I would agree. Mine probably one and two for sci-fi movies, or even maybe even tied.
Yeah,
Arrival is up there for me as well, but it's just a different kind of movie.
Different kind for
yeah,
sure.
It's not really the same.
And I maybe I need to rewatch it, and I'm going to say something that I'm going to go out loud and essentially say something positive about a Sandra Bullock movie. But Gravity, I remember watching and thinking was absolutely awesome. Really but yeah. I think the fact that Bullock's in it probably means it could never be, top two. But I really liked Moon.
Yes,
Moon's amazing.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our boy.
I don't know if it's is it underrated? Because
I think it probably is, because I would imagine I still think there's a decent amount of people who don't even know about it. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's a realm of people who know its greatness, but also you got the spacey veil over it, so it's like there's things working against it. We should probably do it at some point. Because,
that's a great call.
It's we should do anything with Rockwell, but I'm in.
I just wanted to go back because we had talked about this, but I think we kind of mentioned it when we were talking about Whiplash and how, raising kids and making them, be the best that they can be. You don't want to go down the toxic parenting route, right? The way that J.K. Simmons went down with Miles Teller. But at the same time, this gives you the flip side, right? Of if you, encourage your kids to do the best, no matter what they encounter, those lessons will always stick with them and they will always fight for you. I just felt like I would be the best parent if my kid would continue to believe what I taught them and continue to search for a truth or way to find me or whatever after, 120 years, like Murph did, and it was just that was where I really was like, oh, I'm not going to be as good as a parent as Coop. I can try.
Well, two scenes or two lines that I love at the end when they're like, this is Murphy Cooper we're talking about, and he's just just to hear that about your daughter, that she's just this most famous person.
That might have been when they're like, oh, we're on essentially the planet they're on, Cooper's, and they're like, yeah, but he's like, oh, that's great. You guys would name that after me. And he's like, no, that's and the realization of it being like, no, your daughter is who we named that after. Boom, what a flip switch.
Yeah, and then the whole scene where in the beginning when he's at the parent teacher conference, and he's just like, well, how are you going to handle this at home? It's like, well, there's a baseball game Shirley wants to go to, candy and ice cream or candy and whatever. I think I'll take her to that. I'm like, I laughed. That was just that's exactly how I would handle it if someone tries to give my daughter misinformation about the moon landing.
The moon landing. That's the way it get, they're skewing the narrative.
I think you might need to show her a little film called Capricorn 1.
What's that?
Yeah, what's that? What are you talking
Capricorn 1 is it's like a O.J. Simpson, Elliot Gould, where they fake either they fake the moon landing or they fake a Mars mission. like they were supposed to go, but they didn't, and it's not good, but it is funny because it's just one of those random like space movies that like people like, oh, see, they've been doing it for years, and we just never thought about it.
Well, it's like like the flat earther thing, right? Like there's so many people that believe this stuff now. It's crazy, and you could see a world. We've done Idiocracy, and I mean, you could see a world where, given enough time, someone would just be like, "Yeah, no, it probably was fake." And if you take it out of textbooks, like you could just stop teaching it, and someone would just believe that, like, yeah, no, that's unbelievable. We never did that. That was just a lie.
Why?
Just to.
My question to those people is, why would you want to believe that? Why would you not want to believe that we've achieved so much that we can go to a distant orb,
I wish I could
planet,
answer you.
like, we're that good. Like we've achieved that much that we can go somewhere else outside of our own planet, and then
I feel
come
like
back.
those people look up and see the moon, and they see a flat circle up in the sky, like pasted up on the wall of the sky.
Time is a flat circle.
They don't grasp the sphere. They don't grasp like the dimension. I just think all of that is, and you can't waste your time. I mean, it's all.
It seems
ridiculous.
dumb to me that you would never want to believe that we could do more than what we're currently.
You understand? I think that people think it's way more fun to just not believe and say and essentially play the antagonist role.
Yeah,
and all that.
I ran into a flat earther in real life, and I was shocked. It was at Ravinia at a concert, and I don't know.
Definitely have come up.
And I don't even know how it came up, but he said flat earther, and the wife was like, "No, he really." I'm like, you're messing with me. I'm like, you're not a flat earther. And the wife's like, "No, here we go. He's gonna get into it all." And like Lindsay and everyone looked at me, and they're like, "Don't don't piss this guy off, or like don't get into it." But I was calm. I was good. I just really wanted to hear what he had to say. And he's just like, I've seen all the evidence, and I'm an engineer or something like that. And he's like, there's proof for both. So if I choose to believe that one, I'm like, all right. But it's just it's wild to me. There's a lot more of them than you would. It started off as a joke. It's like the whole, what is the birds aren't real? That's another one. And
the bird thing, that's its own. But that's like a mockumentary, a mock type spoof on all of it.
I think it started that way, but I think there's people that really believe it now.
Well, look, if you aren't there yet on people being idiots, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure some people believe it, but legitimately it is a thing, or made up thing. But did you pick up on the names and the connotation that went along with it? I definitely did not. So, from looking into the type of situation, Cooper, Amelia, and Miller all sharing names with famous missing person cases of individuals in flight who were never found.
Oh,
which one's Miller?
DB Cooper, Amelia Earhart, and Glenn Miller.
Of the Glenn Miller Band?
Exactly. Is that one of the Eagles?
It's Glenn Fry.
Oh, is that Glenn Fry?
Eagles Fly?
Is it Glenn Miller a band? Or are you talking about Steve Miller?
Yeah.
Glenn
His
Miller.
brother.
Yeah, Steve Miller band.
It's cousin Mark. It's cousin Glenn.
You guys are mixing way too many things.
Glenn Miller flew from England to France, and his plane vanished in the 40s. So it was historically it was a big deal.
Got it. Okay.
Anyway,
didn't know that.
So Miller definitely a deeper pull, but ultimately multiple people were correlated to that, and not honestly surprising in some way. I would say, at least from my vantage point, that Nolan and everyone would think of kind of a way to throw that out there. I
love the Murphy's Law thing. I love naming Murph after that, and the way he explains it to her as well, because that is the common, people say it for when things do go wrong, but that's not what Murphy's Law is. It's that anything that can happen will, and I think that's it's a great thing to name your kid after, and be a great way they explained it to her. So, yeah.
Is Nolan's favorite actor Michael Caine?
I think he's been in the most.
Yeah, I think
almost all of.
I think I read that he really loves his performance in Jaws: The Revenge, and that's why he wanted to put him in everything he does.
He needed a rebound after that because he's in the Prestige, right?
Correct.
So you got the Prestige, you have Inception, you have Interstellar, you have the Batman franchise. Like, that's 6 movies right there. Is there another Nolan?
Is he in Tenet?
He's in Tenet.
He is?
Yep.
Yeah, he is.
Not in Memento or Following.
Oh, so 7.
But those were
That's
early.
a good run. Good run with a good director.
Yeah.
He's in Dunkirk as well.
Okay, so I have not seen Dunkirk. Do you feel like Nolan is more apt to do like the science fiction mind bending or the like historical drama? Which one do you think excels more at?
I mean, I just know, like I said, this is my favorite Nolan. I love the subject matter. I love the sci-fi element of it. But Dunkirk's a good movie. I almost watched it again with Lindsay. We chose The Darkest Hour instead with Gary Oldman, which actually was about kind of Dunkirk as well in its own way. So yeah, and Oppenheimer Oppenheimer has a lot of science to it as well. It's obviously not science fiction, just science fact, but that's why I think it resonated with so many people because it blended everything that he does so well into something that I don't know. It's just that's probably considered his magnum opus. I would say, and it's the one he's going to be most remembered for. But I still prefer Interstellar.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think it's. I mean, I think it's right, and Jelani, to answer your question, I think he's intrigued by the fascination with the unknown and the known. I mean, not to say that this stuff's unknown. I mean, I think that, again, like mentioned earlier, they are working off founded theories. But I think I don't know that there's enough evidence to really support that he's too deep into like preferring or focusing on like historical events. I think the sci-fi world of it all and the curiosity that goes along with it is probably where he lives more often.
And I think that's his brother a lot of times too. I think Jonathan Nolan is where a lot of these mind-bending concepts come from more than maybe Christopher. He's just a really good filmmaker.
Yeah, same.
I concur with that.
Real quick before we finish up here, there was one other thing I thought was interesting is Nolan. He grew 500 acres of corn for the movie. I guess they did it during. He produced Man of Steel. I don't know if you knew that. I didn't know that. Not that I look at all producer credits, but and they did something similar. So they grew for all those fields. They grew 500 acres of corn for the movie, and turned a profit in actually farming it.
Look at that.
And then drove a bunch of vehicles through it so that they could and lit it on fire. Pretty funny, but a neat way to correlate. I liked I didn't like parts of it, but I liked the idea that kind of the way the world was. They valued the farming aspect and needed farmers, and Chalamet's character was essentially destined to be a farmer. It wasn't second in his class, wasn't quite smart enough to be able to go to university, and it's like, well, you're a farmer. We need farmers. You're good, and probably did a great job. But I found that interesting. And lastly, real quick, because this actually ties in. I recognized it right as it was happening. The Dust Bowl, so they had Dust Bowl, the documentary from Ken Burns about the Dust Bowl. They had people on there, in the movie. It was actually from that documentary talking about the Dust Bowl. So I was recently in Tulsa, and we went to the Woody Guthrie Museum that's down there, and one of the parts of that is a VR experience where you can experience the Dust Bowl. So I sat in this chair, and essentially you are sitting on a front porch, and you witness and watch what the Dust Bowl felt like coming through, and like darkening everything, killing birds, killing rabbits, people wrecking cars, and it was crazy. But in walking around this museum, they had clips of the PBS documentary from Ken Burns about the Dust Bowl. I've started this movie, and I'm like, I know what that is. That's the Dust Bowl documentary. I'm like, I just saw this. Like, this is crazy. And it weirdly was one of these things that's been going on recently that feels like I'm in this all things connected point where I'm like, one weekend I'm watching pieces of a Dust Bowl documentary in a museum in Oklahoma, and the next weekend I'm watching a movie where they showcase people from the Dust Bowl documentary in it. And I'm like, I just found it fascinating that it all tied together.
Are you starting to see the number 23 everywhere?
Yes, 100%.
Pepe Sylvia. I'm going knocking on Carol, the HR.
Carol!
This shit.
Anyway, I not to take us out of it, but it really did kind of. It was just like I couldn't just shake my head. It was crazy how it all tied together.
This shit doesn't happen on a flat earth, I'll tell you that, people. As always, don't just tell us you're afraid to subscribe to the pod. No, you got to go further. You got to record the facts, analyze, get the how and the why, and then present your conclusion and subscribe already. Deal? Thanks. And go to bed.